This video will clearly outline the 10 key components to each and every Oxbridge application, and hopefully make your application process much smoother and stress-free. Okay, so the first component are your GCSEs. Now neither Oxford nor Cambridge have set requirements that you must achieve for GCSEs. However, both say that a strong set of GCSE results will bode well to your application. What I would say is try and do the best you can in your GCSEs, but even if you don't get the grades you're really going for, even if you don't get straight 9s or straight 8s, don't worry, still apply, and not getting the top grades won't mean you won't get in. So the second component are your A-levels. So first things first is your A-level subjects. So obviously the subjects you pick will determine quite heavily whether you get an offer or not, or whether your application is considered. On both the websites for Oxford and Cambridge, they'll have a list of their subjects that they offer to study, and then the list of A-levels they either require or they desire. For example, for me, for economics at Cambridge, I required A-level maths, and they kind of advised A-level further maths and A-level economics. So make sure to check the websites before you take your A-level subjects to make sure you are taking the A-levels that they require. And then the second part to the A-level part are your A-level predicted grades. So at the end of year 12, your teachers and your college or school will come together and they will choose a predicted grade based on your performance in year 12. And this predicted grade is the grade that they kind of predict they expect you to get at the end of year 13 in your A-levels. Ideally, your predicted grade will be the minimum grade requirements that the university offer. So again, for economics at Cambridge, the typical offer they gave out was A star, A star, A, with A star in mathematics. So when I was trying to get my predicted grades, I wanted to make sure at least I got 2 A stars and 1 A. And obviously the higher your predicted grades are, the better it looks. The third component they consider is your personal statement. Now a personal statement is kind of like a CV for a job or a cover letter, and it's basically you describing why you want to take that subject and why you like that subject. It's quite short, it's only a page and a bit, 4,000 characters maximum, including spaces. And really what they're looking for in your personal statement is for it to be personal and for you to describe why you love your subject, what you've done to show you love your subject, and why you really want to study your subject at university. Then component number 4 is your subject references or teacher references. So alongside the predicted grades that your A-level teachers will offer you at the end of year 12, they also write subject references. And this is just a couple paragraphs about you and how you do in that subject. And then your personal tutor or your college as a whole will condense these down to one large college reference, which includes references from all of your individual A-level subjects. What I'd recommend for this component is if there's something you really want your teacher to mention, just email them and ask, because usually they're quite generic subject references because teachers have to do quite a lot in quite a short period of time. So if there's something you really want on there, just email your teacher and ask. Then the fifth component to the Oxbridge application process is kind of choosing a college. So after you've done these first 4 components, that's kind of like the base before you apply. And during your application, you will pick a college. For Cambridge, there's about 31 colleges, I think. Oxford, a similar amount. And these are basically kind of individual, almost houses, like in school, that you go to when you're at the university. And you actually apply to the college, not the university. So it's quite confusing, but I hope that makes sense. So some are very central, some are quite far out, some are very large, some are very small. I don't think it actually matters too much what college you apply for. For me, I just wanted to be quite central and in quite a large college, so that's why I applied to King's. So again, I don't think this section matters too much, just where you want to be in the city and how big your college wants to be. I say they're kind of like the 2 criteria. So the 6th component is the SAQ, and this only applies to Cambridge applicants. The SAQ stands for the Supplementary Additional Questionnaire, and it's a questionnaire that all Cambridge applicants have to fill in as part of the application process, and it's non-optional. And what it's asked for is your results, if you do UMS and your UMS marks. Also asks for the topics you've done so far in your A-level courses, and also stuff like your class sizes. It also asks for an additional personal statement, although this is optional, and for me personally, I didn't bother doing this. There's also things like a ID photo you need, so they can like compare you and make sure you're actually you at your interview, and just stuff like that basically. And then the 7th component is admission tests, and they usually take place around the start of November. However, not all courses and not all colleges will offer admission tests, so check with your university, your college and your course to find out if you do have to take an admission test or not. So for me, I had to take the ECAA, which was the Economics Cambridge admission test, and it took place on the 3rd of November last year. The subject web pages at the university websites will offer quite a bit of information about this, so yeah, just check it out basically. And then the 8th component is written work that you may have to submit, and again, only some courses at some colleges have to do this. For me personally, I did not have to submit any written work. So I think all this is that they'll ask for a bit of work about a certain topic or something you're proud of that you've done in year 12, then you just send to them so they can read over and maybe talk about in your interview. Speaking about interview, that is the 9th component to every Oxbridge application. So only some people get called to interview. At Cambridge, it's quite a high percent. I think it's around 75 to 80% of people. But at Oxford, a much smaller percent of people are called to interview. I think it's around 30%. And interviews usually take place at the start of December or maybe a bit later, but around that time. Again, check your college and course website for more information about this, because some courses and colleges will offer 1, some offer 2, some offer even 3 interviews. And the interviews can be in different nature. So some may be talking about your personal statement and why you want to come to the college as a whole, and some may be purely about your subject. For me personally, my interview, I only had 1, and it was just purely about economics. And then the final component to each and every Oxbridge application, which I really should mention, are contextual factors. So for example, someone comes from a poorer area and they went to state school and they got straight 8s at their GCSEs. This at face value looks worse than somebody who got straight 9s. But that person who got straight 9s could come from a very affluent area and could have gone to private school. So Cambridge and Oxford will look at this in consideration, and they will look at your grades relative to the school or college or area you came from. And the final thing that I want to say is that Cambridge and Oxford are very clear that they look at your application holistically. So they don't look at each component and have like a tick box and be like, oh, they're good at that, they're not good at that, they can't come in. They'll look at it as a whole. So even if you are not that strong at one section of your application, don't be put off because they look at your application as a whole. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you have any more questions about the Oxbridge application or my application or any personal experiences, do let me know down in the comments. If not, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.